The night air felt heavy, as though the city itself had been holding its breath since Yu Menglong's tragic fall. Streets that once glowed with the laughter of his fans now carried whispers, the kind of whispers that cling to shadows and refuse to let go. It wasn't just about the official reports anymore. It wasn't just about the sterile words on paper declaring cardiac arrest or the brief police statements urging calm. It was about the fragments that kept surfacing, those raw, unpolished moments captured by strangers, and the trembling voices of people who swore they saw the truth unfold with their own eyes. The first video appeared quietly, like a flicker in the vast storm of the internet. A shaky clip, barely 30 seconds, filmed from the opposite street. The voice of a passerby filled the recording, his tone disbelieving, frantic, as he kept repeating Menglong's name. The footage caught the faint outline of a man near the balcony railing, tall, delicate, shoulders slightly slouched as though carrying a weight too heavy for one body. The timestamp matched the night Menglong left this world. Some dismissed it as coincidence. Others swore they could hear his last sigh carried by the wind just before the screen went black. Another video emerged days later, posted by someone who claimed they had been walking their dog nearby. This one was clearer, crueler in its detail. It showed a faint glow of light from Menglong's apartment window, curtains pulled aside. The outline of his silhouette was unmistakable, standing far too close to the edge. There was no sound at first, just silence, eerie and unrelenting. But if you listened carefully, some said you could hear music playing faintly in the background. A piano. A melody he had once played for his fans during a live stream. As though, in his final moments, he returned to the comfort of music, letting it cradle him when the world felt too sharp. The internet erupted. Some cried that it was disrespectful to share these fragments of his last moments. Others clung to them like lifelines, unable to let go, desperate to piece together meaning from the cracks left behind. Fans slowed the videos, frame by frame, searching for details, a hand gesture, a flicker of hesitation, anything to suggest he wasn't alone. And then came the voices. Eyewitnesses who had buried their silence under fear or uncertainty finally began to speak. A young woman, trembling as she shared her account in a tearful live stream, said she had seen a man pacing on the balcony just before midnight. He kept stepping forward, then pulling back, she whispered, her eyes darting as though reliving the scene. Like he was fighting with himself, like he wanted to stay but the darkness was stronger. Her words tore through the comments, fans flooding her chat with broken hearts, prayers, and cries of disbelief. Another man, older, rough around the edges, recounted the haunting sound that had kept him awake that night, the crash of glass, the muffled thud, the sudden scream of sirens. "It wasn't just an accident," he muttered, voice cracking. "It felt like watching an angel fall." He clenched his fists as he spoke, as though holding back his own grief, his own helplessness in that moment when he could do nothing but watch from the street below. The most chilling account came from a neighbor in the same building, who revealed she had heard shouting, muffled but frantic. She swore Menglong hadn't been alone. "There was another voice," she said, her words shaking. A man's voice, low but sharp, like an argument. And then silence. Just silence, so sudden it felt unnatural. Her confession sparked chaos. Speculation ran wild, theories spun out of control. Had someone been there? Had someone walked away too soon? But the videos, those grainy, imperfect fragments, told a different story when woven together. A fan edited them side by side, layering the eyewitness testimonies in the background. The result was unbearable to watch yet impossible to look away from. You saw him, Menglong, standing at that fragile line between staying and leaving, his shadow swaying with indecision. You heard the woman's trembling words about his hesitation. You felt the weight of the neighbor's claim about another voice. The screen cut to black right as the crash echoed in memory. Millions watched. Millions wept. The hardest part wasn't the evidence itself. It was the way it clung to the heart, pulling you into the unbearable reality of what it means to be human, to fight demons in silence, to smile on stage while your soul battles storms unseen. For fans, it felt like betrayal of the universe itself. How could a man who brought warmth and light to so many be left in such cold loneliness? Yet, within this storm of grief, something else began to bloom. Vigils appeared in city squares, candles flickering like fragile stars. Fans held their phones high, playing his songs on loop, as if to remind him, wherever his spirit wandered, that he was never truly alone. Mothers brought their children, whispering Menglong's name with reverence, teaching them about kindness, vulnerability, and the importance of listening before it's too late. Fathers stood silently, holding photos of their daughter's idol, tears glistening under streetlights. And in these gatherings, eyewitnesses and fans found one another. The woman who saw him hesitate on the balcony was embraced by strangers who told her she wasn't alone in carrying that memory. The man who heard the crash was thanked for speaking, even though his voice cracked with every word. Even the neighbor who swore she heard another voice was not shunned, but held with compassion, because whether or not her account was true, her grief was. The story of those uncovered videos and trembling testimonies became more than just evidence. It became a mirror. A mirror showing us how fragile life is, how easily silence can swallow a person whole, and how desperately we need to hold on to one another before the darkness does. For fans, every frame of those videos, every trembling word of those witnesses, became sacred. Not because it brought closure, but because it made Menglong feel closer, more real, more human. They were not watching a celebrity anymore. They were watching a young man who laughed, loved, and battled storms like anyone else. And in that realization, hearts cracked open, not just in grief but in understanding. Some nights, when the streets are quiet and the stars seem dimmer, people swear they still hear it, the faint echo of piano notes drifting through the air, the kind Menglong once played. A reminder. A promise. That even in the deepest silence, love leaves an echo that can never be erased. And so, the uncovered videos and eyewitness accounts did more than reveal fragments of a final night. They carved out a truth that words alone could never capture, that Yu Menglong's story didn't end with his fall. It lives on in every candle lit, every whispered prayer, every trembling voice brave enough to share what they saw. His story became not just about loss, but about the threads of humanity that bind us all, fragile, invisible, yet unbreakable when held together by love. The city hadn't healed, not even close. Weeks after Yu Menglong's passing, the whispers turned into storms. New clips kept surfacing, each one like a shard of broken glass, painful to touch, but impossible to ignore. They didn't just reopen wounds, they carved new ones. One night, a video emerged that froze the internet. This one wasn't filmed from across the street or from the park below. It was from inside the building itself, taken by a delivery driver who had been waiting in the lobby. The timestamp matched the night of Menglong's death. The camera shook, angled at the elevator doors. The ding echoed, metal sliding open, and a figure stepped out. Tall, slim, face hidden under a cap. He wasn't alone. Behind him, another figure lingered in the shadows. Voices could be heard faintly, tense, hurried. No one could say for certain if it was Menglong himself, but the posture, the familiar way he held his shoulders, it felt unmistakable. Seconds later, the camera cut, as if whoever recorded had lost their nerve. The clip spread like wildfire. Fans slowed the footage down frame by frame, pointing out details. The way his hand brushed the wall as he walked, the familiar black hoodie he had been spotted wearing in earlier fan videos. Some swore it proved Menglong wasn't alone that night. Others said it confirmed he'd been restless, pacing, unsettled. But the darker whispers grew louder. Was someone with him, and did they leave at the wrong moment? Eyewitnesses returned to speak again, their memories reshaping under the weight of new evidence. A taxi driver who had parked outside the building finally shared what he saw. He said he had watched a man in a cap rush out around midnight, climbing into a car that sped away without headlights on. He didn't look back, the driver recalled, voice trembling. Not once. As if he wanted to escape what had just happened. A woman who lived 2 floors below Menglong confessed she had heard something even more chilling. It wasn't just shouting, she whispered into the camera during a late-night interview. It was pleading. His voice, soft at first, then breaking. Like he was begging someone not to go. And then, silence. The silence. Always the silence. Every account circled back to that suffocating stillness that followed, heavier than any scream. The videos became a mosaic of fragments. A shadow at the window. A figure in the elevator. The sound of footsteps rushing away. Together they told a story, but a story with missing pages, torn and scattered. And that mystery consumed the world. Fans didn't just watch, they became investigators, stitching together timelines, mapping every detail of the night. They traced car routes, matched clothing from past fan meetings, even analyzed the faint reflection in the glass of the window video. What they found wasn't answers but questions. Questions too sharp to ignore. Why had the official report been so brief, so sterile? Why did the police insist on closing the case so quickly? Why did every witness speak of hesitation, pleading, of someone else being there, but no official record mentioned another presence? And yet, beneath the fire of speculation, there was grief, raw and consuming. The videos were more than evidence. They were the last glimpses of a life slipping away. Fans couldn't stop watching, even as it tore them apart. They saw his hesitation, his fragile stance near the balcony, the faint notes of piano that seemed to echo with a question no one could answer. One fan described it perfectly in a tearful post that went viral. Asterisk, these videos aren't just proof of what happened. They're proof of how human he was. How much he fought, how much he wanted to stay, even in those final seconds. Asterisk. But then, another video surfaced, the most haunting of all. This one was recorded by a jogger passing the building after midnight. The camera tilted upward, shaky, catching the faint glow of a balcony light. And there he was, Yu Menglong, barely a silhouette, head tilted back toward the sky. His lips moved, though the wind swallowed his words. Fans who slowed the clip claimed he whispered something, 3 words, over and over. Some heard asterisk, I'm so sorry. Asterisk, others heard asterisk, let me go. Asterisk. It didn't matter what the words were. What mattered was the ache behind them, the way his body swayed as though caught between gravity and surrender. And then, just as quickly, the video ended. 4 days, no one slept. Millions rewatched that final clip, searching for meaning, for truth, for the impossible possibility that maybe he hadn't meant to let go at all. The eyewitnesses, too, watched, their voices shaking as they recognized the exact moment when their memories and the video aligned. The story no longer belonged to just the official reports, the police, or the media. It belonged to the people, to the strangers who had held up their phones and captured fragments, to the witnesses who carried memories that haunted their sleep, and to the fans who turned grief into relentless devotion. And in that devotion, something shifted. Vigils grew larger. Murals of Menglong's face bloomed on city walls, painted by hands that trembled with both pain and love. Fans across the world lit candles at the same hour, whispering the words they thought they heard him say. Asterisk, I'm so sorry. Asterisk, asterisk, let me go. Asterisk, whether apology or plea, they answered with the same reply. Asterisk, we love you. We hear you. You are not forgotten. Asterisk. The uncovered videos and voices had not given closure. They had opened wounds, exposed truths, and raised questions that may never be answered. But they had also created a tapestry, a collective heartbeat of grief and love that stretched across borders, across languages, across the very silence that had taken him away. Some nights, people still stand beneath his building, phones in hand, not to record but to listen. To the wind, to the silence, to the faint echo of piano notes that seemed to linger where he once stood. And in that silence, they find him again, not as a mystery to solve, not as a case file closed too quickly, but as a man who lived, who fought, who mattered.